USA-Russia conflict turned deadly, but she kept fighting Army Girl Chronicles fire. The sky over Eastern Europe had the color of old steel, cold, heavy, and lifeless. Captain Emily Carter stood motionless on the edge of a ruined industrial zone, her boots planted in frozen dirt that had once been part of a busy supply route. Now it was a graveyard of collapsed buildings, burnt-out vehicles, and silence that felt unnatural. Her breath turned to fog inside her helmet. Everything about this mission felt wrong. Not the objective itself, border stabilization patrol, but the way command had rushed them in. No full intel, no confirmed enemy positions, just fragments of satellite data and one sentence that kept repeating in her mind. Increased hostile movement detected. That was military language for something far worse. War was already here. Emily adjusted her night vision goggles. The world turned into a glowing green ghost of reality, broken walls, shattered steel beams, and dust drifting like ash in slow motion. Behind her, her squad moved in silence. 6 soldiers. All experienced. All tense. They trusted her because she never panicked. But even trust had limits when the unknown started breathing down your neck. "Captain," Sergeant Hayes whispered through comms, "HQ says Russian units were last spotted 20 clicks north. No movement since." Emily didn't respond immediately. She scanned the horizon instead. Stillness. Too perfect. That was the problem. "If they stopped moving," she finally said, "it means they're already where they want to be." A pause on the line. Then Hayes replied, "You think this is an ambush zone?" Emily crouched behind a collapsed steel pillar, running her fingers across the rough surface. Burn marks, old impact craters, not recent, but not ancient either. Someone had been here before them. "Not think," she said quietly, confirming pattern. A distant sound broke the silence. Click. Metallic, sharp. Emily froze instantly. Her hand lifted, closed fist. The squad stopped on instinct. Click. Click. Her eyes narrowed. "Take cover," she whispered. No hesitation. No question. They moved just as the first bullet tore through the air, slamming into concrete where Hayes had been standing seconds earlier. Then the world exploded. Gunfire erupted from multiple directions. The ruins lit up with muzzle flashes hidden in smoke and broken windows. The sound wasn't random, it was coordinated. Professional. Russian special forces. Emily pressed herself against the pillar as bullets chipped away concrete inches from her face. "Contact front and left," someone shouted. "Ambush confirmed," another voice yelled. Emily exhaled slowly. So it had begun. She didn't panic. That was the difference between her and most soldiers. While chaos erupted around her, her mind became quieter. Clearer. She leaned slightly, observing muzzle flashes. Counting rhythm. Tracing angles. 3 squads, she said calmly into comms. Minimum, possibly 4. They're using overlapping fields of fire. Hayes replied, "We're pinned." "Not pinned," Emily corrected. "Contained." That word mattered. Pinned meant helpless. Contained meant controlled. And control meant there was always an exit. "Lieutenant Hayes," she ordered, "smoke cover east flank. Now." On it. Smoke grenades burst across the battlefield, swallowing visibility. The gunfire became confused, less precise, more reactive. That was her opening. "Move on my signal," she said. A beat passed. Then. Now. The squad moved fast, sprinting between collapsing structures as bullets chased them like angry shadows. Emily led from the front, low and fast, rifle steady. An explosion hit behind them, debris raining down like shrapnel from the sky. One soldier stumbled. Emily grabbed him without breaking stride. "No one falls behind," she shouted. "Captain, we're losing formation," Hayes warned. Formations are dead, she replied. Movement is survival. They pushed deeper into the ruins. But Emily noticed something disturbing. The enemy fire wasn't stopping them. It was guiding them. Every path they took, every escape route, was being herded. Like cattle. Like prey. She slowed for half a second behind cover. That's when she saw it. A narrow industrial corridor ahead, too clean, too open compared to the rest of the battlefield. A gap. Left open on purpose. South corridor, Hayes said, noticing it too. That's our exit. Emily didn't move. Her instincts screamed louder than the gunfire. It's not an exit, she said. Hayes frowned. Then what is it? Emily's eyes narrowed. A funnel. Another explosion rocked the ground. This one closer. The enemy was pushing them. Forcing them. And then the comms crackled with a new signal. Cold. Distorted. Unknown language, translated instantly by system AI. U.S. forces identified. You are surrounded. Surrender is advised. The voice echoed through multiple speakers across the battlefield. Psychological pressure. Controlled dominance. Emily stood slowly from cover. Her squad looked at her. Waiting. Breathing hard. Hopping. She made eye contact with each of them. Then said one sentence. We don't surrender. The gunfire intensified instantly. They were done waiting. Emily raised her rifle. Break formation. Move through the corridor. Captain, that's suicide, someone shouted. Emily didn't look back. Then we die moving. They sprinted. The corridor swallowed them, tight, dark, chaotic. Bullets slammed into metal around them. Echoes turned the space into a pressure chamber of sound. Then, a mechanical hum rose ahead. Emily stopped mid-step. Her blood turned cold. Everyone down now. She barely finished the sentence before the first drone emerged from the smoke. Red sensor light. Silent rotation. Then another. Then another. Dozens. The corridor lit up like a death tunnel. A robotic voice echoed. Engagement protocol initiated. Emily whispered. Drone kill zone. And she raised her weapon. Not because she expected to win, but because retreat was no longer an option. The corridor changed in an instant. What had been a narrow passage through broken industrial ruins became a mechanical nightmare. Walls of steel, smoke, and moving red lights. The drones didn't rush. They didn't need to. They owned the space. Emily Carter felt it the moment she raised her rifle. The air itself felt controlled, like the battlefield had been taken out of human hands and handed to something colder, something that never hesitated. A soft electronic tone echoed through the corridor. Beep, beep, beep. Target acquisition. Move back, Emily shouted. The first burst of gunfire came without warning. The drones opened fire in perfect sync, thin red lasers marking targets followed by rapid ballistic bursts. The corridor lit up like a strobe of death. Concrete exploded where Emily had been standing half a second earlier. Take cover, Sergeant Hayes yelled. The squad scattered into fractured positions, behind beams, broken crates, and twisted steel walls. But there was no real cover. Only delay. Emily pressed herself behind a collapsed support pillar. Her breathing was steady, but her eyes were scanning constantly. Too many drones. Too organized. This isn't a patrol unit, she muttered. This is a containment system. Her comms crackled. Captain, we're getting pinned deeper into the corridor, Hayes shouted. Emily leaned slightly, watching the movement pattern. The drones weren't advancing randomly. They were forming a funnel, forcing them forward. Exactly where the enemy wanted. Don't go forward, she ordered instantly. But it was already too late. A massive explosion behind them sealed the exit. The corridor collapsed in a storm of steel and dust. They were locked in. Silence lasted exactly 2 seconds. Then the drones advanced. Slow. Relentless. Like a machine breathing. "Captain," Private Miller whispered, voice shaking, "there's too many." Emily didn't respond immediately. Her mind was working faster than fear. There is always a pattern. There is always a weakness. She stood up slightly, ignoring the bullets snapping past her shoulder. "Listen carefully," she said calmly. "They're not here to fight us. They're here to process us." Hayes looked at her. Process. They're controlling movement, not eliminating instantly. That means they're feeding us somewhere. A pause. Then realization hit. Hayes looked ahead. Into a kill chamber. Emily nodded once. Exactly. A drone suddenly rotated toward them. A red light locked on Private Miller. Beep, locked. Before anyone could react. Boom. A blast threw him across the corridor. Silence hit the squad harder than the explosion. No time to process. No time to react. Only movement. Emily's jaw tightened. There was no hesitation in her voice now. Fall back 50 meters, left side ruined structure. "Captain, that's deeper into their zone," Hayes shouted. "Everything is their zone," she snapped back. "Move." They ran. Gunfire chased them like a living thing. Drones adjusted instantly, predicting movement, cutting off paths, pushing them like a herding system. Emily realized something terrifying. They weren't being ambushed. They were being guided. They reached a half-collapsed warehouse interior. Darkness swallowed them for a moment. The drones paused outside. Waiting. That pause was worse than bullets. Hayes panted. Why did they stop? Emily looked up at the broken ceiling. Because something bigger is coming. Then she saw it. A shifting shadow beyond the smoke outside. Not drones. Heavier. Slower. Armored. "Captain," Hayes said quietly, "you seeing that?" Emily didn't answer. Her eyes locked on the silhouette forming through the haze. Metal footsteps. Ground vibration. A deep mechanical rhythm like thunder crawling across the earth. Then it stepped into view. A Russian combat walker unit. Towering machines with rotating cannons and reinforced plating, moving like predators designed to erase cities. The drones immediately shifted formation. Escorting it. Guarding it. Emily whispered. So this is the second phase. The walker raised its arm cannon. The warehouse walls lit up with targeting scans. Inside, the squad froze. This wasn't small arms anymore. This was Annihilation-class firepower. Hayes looked at Emily. "We can't survive that." Emily didn't flinch. "We don't survive it head-on." Another walker stepped into view behind the first. Then another. 3 machines. Systematic execution force. Emily scanned the warehouse rapidly. Broken beams above. Unstable roof structure. Old industrial explosives stored in cracked containment boxes. Her eyes narrowed. A plan formed instantly. Dangerous. Vast. Final. "Everyone," she said, voice steady, "listen carefully." They looked at her. Even in fear, they listened. "We're not fighting them directly." She pointed upward. "We're bringing the battlefield down on them." Hayes understood immediately. Structural collapse. Emily nodded. "We turn this place into a trap." Outside, the walkers stepped closer. Each movement shook dust from the ceiling. The drones repositioned, sealing exits. There was no escape route left. Only one option remained. Emily's squad began moving instantly, placing charges, wiring explosives, dragging old industrial gas canisters into key support points. Every second mattered. Every second shortened survival. "Charges set," Hayes shouted. Left side ready, another soldier called. Emily checked the structure above. Weak points. Stress fractures. Perfect. Outside, the lead walker locked onto the warehouse. Its cannon powered up. A deep mechanical charge filled the air. This was it. Execution sequence. Emily raised her hand. Her squad froze. She looked at them one last time. No fear in her eyes. Only certainty. No regrets, she said. Then she lowered her hand. Collision boom. The explosion didn't just detonate, it unmade the warehouse. Steel beams collapsed like falling giants. The roof caved inward. Fire and dust erupted into the sky as the structure imploded. The walkers fired, but too late. The collapsing building swallowed their line of sight. Metal screamed. Concrete shattered. The battlefield turned into chaos. Emily was thrown backward by the force, hitting the ground hard. Her ears rang. Dust filled the air like a storm. For a moment, nothing could be seen. Only sound. Crushing. Breaking. Destroying. Then silence. She slowly pushed herself up. Her vision blurred. Smoke everywhere. The walkers gone from sight. But the drones, still active. Red lights flickered through the dust. And then, a voice crackled through enemy comms. Calm. Cold. You are adapting. Emily tightened her grip on her rifle. Because now she understood the truth. This wasn't the end of the attack. It was just the beginning of something worse. The warehouse was gone. What stood seconds ago as a fortified industrial structure was now a graveyard of twisted steel, shattered concrete, and burning debris. Smoke rolled upward in thick waves, swallowing the sky like a dark curtain had been dropped over the battlefield. For a moment, just a moment, it felt like silence had finally returned. Emily Carter pushed herself up from the rubble. Her vision was blurred. Her ears still rang from the explosion. Dust clung to her uniform, mixing with blood from a cut on her forehead. She blinked hard, forcing clarity. Around her, her squad was scattered. Some moving. Some not. Hayes, she called out. A cough answered her from somewhere in the smoke. I'm here, barely, Sergeant Hayes replied, dragging himself out from under a collapsed metal beam. Emily scanned quickly. 3 soldiers accounted for. 2 missing. 1 not moving at all. Her jaw tightened, but she didn't allow herself to stop. Not yet. Not here. Then the ground vibrated again. Not the same tremor as before. Heavier. Slower. Controlled. Emily froze. They're still active, she whispered. From the smoke, shapes began to reappear. The Russian walkers. One had fallen partially into the collapsed structure, but not destroyed. Its armored frame was cracked, scorched, yet still functional. Mechanical joints shifted as it forced itself upright. Another stood further back, stabilizing its stance. And behind them, the drones. Still intact. Still watching. Still hunting. Emily's stomach sank. It didn't work, Hayes said quietly. Emily didn't respond immediately. Her mind replayed the explosion in fragments. They had collapsed the structure. They had done everything right. But war machines didn't rely on fragile buildings. They relied on persistence. They adapted, she said finally. Her voice was low. Controlled. Dangerous. They absorbed the collapse. A loud metallic screech echoed across the ruins. One of the walkers raised its cannon, locking onto movement. Not randomly. Precisely. Targeting Emily. Captain, a soldier shouted. Boom. The blast hit the edge of the rubble they were standing on. The ground erupted, throwing Emily and Hayes sideways. They hit the ground hard. Pain flashed through Emily's ribs. but she forced herself up again. No time. No rest. Only survival. The drones began advancing again. But this time, differently. No longer hurting. No longer containing. Now they were eliminating. Systematic. Cold. Efficient. Emily watched as one drone swept across the battlefield, scanning survivors. A red light locked onto a wounded soldier crawling through debris. Before Emily could react, a burst of fire. Silence. Her fist tightened. They were no longer being tested. They were being erased. Fall back to the eastern ridge, Hayes shouted. There is no ridge anymore, Emily snapped back. She looked around. Everything had changed. The battlefield that once had structure, cover, and predictability was now an open kill field of broken terrain and rising smoke. The enemy had learned, adapted, and escalated. A sudden explosion hit closer. This time, it wasn't a walker. It was artillery. Distant, precise, coordinated. The Russian forces were no longer sending units. They were redesigning the battlefield in real time. Emily's comms crackled. Static. Then a broken transmission. Carter, you need to extract. Repeat, no support available. Then silence. Command was gone. They were alone. Hayes looked at her. Captain, what now? Emily stood slowly. Dust falling from her helmet. Her expression was no longer reactive. It was focused. Hard. Calculated. We stop reacting, she said. A pause. Then she looked at the remaining squad. We start controlling. Another walker stepped forward, its armor glowing faintly from internal heat. Behind it, drones formed a rotating pattern, like a defensive net. This wasn't chaos anymore. This was a system. Emily realized something critical. Every move they made was being studied. Every reaction was being recorded and improved against. They weren't fighting soldiers. They were fighting a learning machine. Listen to me, Emily said sharply. The squad turned toward her. Even exhausted. Even broken. They still listened. We can't win by destroying their units, she said. They'll replace them faster than we can fight. Hayes frowned. Then what's the plan? Emily's eyes shifted toward the ruined industrial complex beyond the smoke. Something deeper. Something structural. It's control system, she said quietly. A pause. Then clarity. We don't fight the army. We cut the brain. A new wave of drones entered the battlefield. Faster. Smarter. Coordinated with walker movements. The net was tightening again. But Emily was already moving. Follow me, she ordered. They sprinted through burning debris, weaving between collapsed steel beams and shattered machinery. The battlefield was no longer a corridor or zone. It was an evolving maze of destruction. Behind them, explosions tracked their movement. The enemy wasn't guessing anymore. It was predicting. A drone swooped low, locked onto Hayes. Emily fired instantly, 2 shots. The drone crashed into a burning pile of metal. Keep moving, she shouted. They reached a partially collapsed communication tower embedded in the ruins. Emily stopped, looked up. The structure was broken, but not destroyed. Wires still flickered faintly inside. Data lines. Signal relay. Control node. Hayes followed her gaze. No way, he muttered. Emily nodded once. This is how they're coordinating. A walker turned toward them. Cannon charging. Drones repositioned. Locking all exits. They had been cornered again. But this time, Emily wasn't looking for escape. She was looking at the source. Plant charges on the base, she ordered. Hayes stared at her. That tower goes down, everything around it goes blind. Exactly. Bullets began raining again. Closer. Faster. The system was reacting to the threat instantly. Emily moved anyway. No hesitation. No fear. Only execution. Charges set, Hayes shouted. Clear, another soldier called. Emily stepped back. Looked at the tower one last time. Then at her squad. This is it, she said. Not as fear, but as truth. Then she pressed the trigger. Collision boom. The tower collapsed inward in a cascade of sparks and collapsing steel. For a split second, everything changed. Drones froze mid-motion. Walkers paused. The coordinated rhythm of the battlefield broke. Just for a moment, but long enough. Emily saw it immediately. The system had lost synchronization. Not destroyed, but disrupted. And in war, a disrupted system is vulnerable. Her eyes narrowed. This is our opening, she whispered. Then she raised her weapon again and stepped forward into the smoke. The communication tower collapsed in a storm of steel and fire, and for the first time since the battle began, the battlefield changed. Not visually, not physically, but structurally. The coordinated rhythm that had been hunting Emily Carter and her squad shattered into fragments. The drones no longer moved in perfect synchronization. The walkers hesitated mid-advance, their targeting systems flickering like a broken heartbeat. The enemy was still deadly, but it was no longer perfect. And in war, perfection is everything. Emily stood in the smoke, her rifle raised, breathing steady despite the chaos around her. Dust fell from the sky like ash from a dying world. Around her, her remaining squad regrouped, fewer now, quieter now, but still alive. Sergeant Hayes limped toward her. It's working, he said, almost in disbelief. Their coordination is breaking. Emily didn't look away from the battlefield. It's not over, she replied. And she was right. A deep, mechanical rumble echoed across the ruins. One of the Russian walkers rebooted its systems manually. Then another. The drones adjusted quickly, falling back into partial formation, attempting to rebuild their network on the fly. The enemy wasn't defeated. It was adapting again. Faster than before. They're rebuilding the link, Hayes said urgently. Emily nodded slightly. They won't get full control back, she said. Not if we keep pressure on them. She turned toward the open ruins ahead. What remained of the battlefield was unrecognizable. Collapsed buildings, burning metal, fractured terrain. But through it all, one thing stood out. The command ridge. A higher structure in the distance. Still active. Still transmitting partial signals. That's our target, Emily said. Hayes followed her gaze. You want to go toward them? Emily finally looked at him. Her expression was calm. Almost cold. We end this where it started controlling us. Another wave of drones surged forward. This time less coordinated, but still lethal. Gunfire erupted instantly. Emily moved first. Always first. She sprinted across broken concrete, rolling under a collapsing beam as bullets tore through the air above her. Behind her, her squad followed, pushing through exhaustion, pain, and fear. The battlefield was no longer structured. It was fragmented chaos. And that was exactly what Emily needed. A drone locked onto her. Beep. Locked. It fired. Emily dropped instantly, sliding across rubble as the blast scorched the air above her. She returned fire without hesitation, 2 precise shots. The drone dropped. She didn't stop. Didn't even look back. Keep moving, she shouted. They pushed forward through burning debris. But the enemy wasn't passive. The walkers advanced again. Slower now. Less synchronized. But still devastating. One cannon fired into the ground ahead of them. sending a shockwave that threw Hayes off his feet. "Captain," he shouted. Emily turned, saw him struggling, and went back. No hesitation. She grabbed him and pulled him up. "You're not dying here," she said again. Hayes let out a broken laugh. "You've said that before." "Then believe it," she replied. They reached the base of the command ridge. It was a reinforced structure, part bunker, part communication hub, part control center for everything they had been fighting. Lights flickered inside. Systems still active, but unstable. Emily studied it quickly. "This is where they're trying to rebuild coordination," she said. Hayes nodded slowly. "So if this goes down, the whole system collapses," Emily finished. Behind them, the battlefield surged again. Drones regrouping. Walkers advancing. The enemy was converging for one final push. This was it. The last wave. Emily turned to her squad. Fewer now. Worn. Tired. But still standing. She looked at each of them. No speeches. No inspiration. Just truth. "We end it now," she said. A pause. Then she added, "Or we don't leave at all." They moved. Vast. Up the ridge. Gunfire erupted instantly. The enemy had anticipated this move. The command structure was heavily defended now. But it didn't matter anymore. Because Emily wasn't reacting. She was committing. Explosions lit the slope as they climbed. One soldier fell behind. Hayes stopped for half a second, but Emily pulled him forward. "No more stops," she ordered. They reached the entrance. A heavy reinforced door. Locked. Of course it was locked. Emily didn't hesitate. She placed a charge. Stepped back. Exploded it open. Inside, everything was different. Clean. Controlled. Digital. Screens lined the walls, tracking battlefield movement, drone coordination, walker positioning. A live war system. A brain. Emily walked in slowly, watching it all. "So this is it," she said quietly. A technician inside reached for a weapon. Emily fired once. He dropped instantly. No emotion. No pause. Just removal of threat. Hayes looked at the screens. "They're still trying to reroute control nodes," he said. Emily walked toward the main terminal. Placed a charge beneath it. Looked at the screen one last time. And saw something unsettling. The system wasn't just reacting. It was learning from her specifically. Her movements. Her decisions. Her patterns. She was not just fighting a war. She was training it. Emily stepped back. "This ends now," she said. Hayes looked at her. "You sure?" Emily nodded. "No more systems." Then she detonated the charges. Collision boom. The command center exploded in a violent surge of fire and collapsing technology. Screens shattered. Systems overloaded. The entire structure shook as the core intelligence network failed. Outside, everything changed instantly. Drones froze midair. Walkers stalled. Then, one by one, they powered down. The battlefield went silent. Not peaceful. Not calm. Just empty. Emily walked out through the smoke. The war machines around them were still. Inactive. Broken. The system that had hunted them was gone. Behind her, Hayes breathed heavily. "It's over," he asked. Emily looked at the horizon. Burning ruins. Falling smoke. A silent battlefield that had moments ago been alive with death. She didn't answer immediately. Because she knew something soldiers always learn too late. Nothing ever truly ends. It just changes shape. Finally, she spoke. "For now." She turned and started walking through the ruins. Her squad followed. Not victorious, not defeated, but alive. And in war, that was the only victory that ever mattered.